Tries to release Mabude. He'll go early with the delivery. Here comes to Borges. What can Carlos Borges do? He can find the route through. Manchester City find the way through. Mabude. Breaking now. Robertson. Now they equalise. Carlos Borges.
It goes to Ashimang. Now Bob again. It's a good play from Bob and a brilliant finish. Oscar Bob.
Eyes off the ball there, but then he was determined to win it back, and that is 4.
Picked up by Taylor. Robertson and City equalise. Really short for this corner. And helped into the net by Shea Charles. That's a brilliant goal.
Good afternoon, Manchester City fans around the world. Welcome to Matchday Live, and the boys are arriving at the Etihad Stadium as we have got a thrilling clash in the offering as Manchester City take on the struggling Leicester City. Now, as we know, Manchester City have been in imperious form, going about their business, hunting down league leaders Arsenal. Can we close that gap with 3 points today? Well, standing in the way of that is a Leicester City team who have been fighting to avoid relegation, which makes this a must-win match for both teams. And with the appointment of a new manager, Dean Smith, Leicester will definitely be hoping for that new manager bounce back and turn their fortunes around. Who is going to come out on top? Will Pep have the answers? And can we secure those all-important 3 points? Well, the answer to that awaits us as Manchester City take on Leicester in our 5:30 kickoff. And here in the studio to build up to this fixture, I've got some giants of the game and also somebody making their Matchday Live debut. My name is Kel Spellman. Happy Saturday. So great to be back with you and so great to be in the studio with these three fine gents. Our guests today are Paul Dickov, Joleon, Lescott, and making his debut, Neil Lennon. Good afternoon, sir. How are we?
I'm very well, Kel. Thanks. What are you laughing at? I'm trying to be professional.
Is
he going to laugh at me the whole show now?
I think he's laughing more at me because I've pulled it out of the bag here today for you, Neil. But
it's quality.
It's great to have you on. And, you know, how was the journey? You were saying you haven't been to the stadium for a while.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was amazing coming in and seeing the pre-match sort of build-up and the entertainment that they have around the stadium. You don't see it a lot, and I've travelled around Europe a lot, you know, and just the atmosphere going into the game was just really, really sort of family-orientated as well. And it's just something you don't see normally around football grounds. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it does, and I think it adds a lot then to when we come into the stadium. The atmosphere here this season has been absolutely brilliant, and it was electric on Tuesday night. Paul, I'm going to come to you because I know if anyone's buzzing more than me, it's usually you. Are you still buzzing after that unbelievable game?
It was a sensational performance against a top Bayern Munich team as well. You know, in the first half they were very, very good. But to play Bayern Munich in Champions League quarter-final and win 3-0, it's a fantastic result. And in the end, I think it was deserved, especially the last 20 minutes. You know, City really upped it. A couple of question marks about when Kevin De Bruyne came off, but you know, the substitutions, the tactics were fantastic. You know, when Juleon came on, he made a huge difference. And as I said, to get 3 goals, and it could have been more. You know, because Sommer and goal made 3 or 4 really good saves as well, and puts us in a great position going out to Munich next week. But you know, that will still be difficult. Yeah,
exactly. So only halfway, Joleon. It's important to remember. I mean, a man who's got experience of going over there and doing the business in the Allianz Arena. What is it going to be like for the boys in blue over there next week?
Yeah, it's going to be hostile and intense. They're European pedigree, won the competition, have huge amounts of experience, and there'll be an expectation there to put on a performance. 1, because they're at home, and 2, because of the performance in the first leg. But yeah, I'm confident we win there as well. I think the circumstances play into our hands in regards to them having to score. I would say in the first half that can leave them open, and then we can just exploit the spaces. And regardless of what the game is going to go into or look like, there's going to be a period of possession that Man City have. And it could be a long spell. I think more recently we've seen them dominate 60, 70 minutes of games, and when they do that, when we do that, we tend to score goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be hoping for lots more goals in Munich next week. But one place we'll be hoping for goals is today in the Etihad Stadium, of course, wanting to close that gap on league leaders Arsenal. What team has Pep chosen to do that? Well, I can bring you it now. First place to get team news is here on Matchday Live. And there you have it. Our starting 11 lines up like this. Ederson in goal. Kyle Walker comes back into the side for Akanji, and then we have John Stones, Ruben Diaz, and Aymeric Laporte returns to the Manchester City starting 11. Then we move to our midfield. Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne captains the side alongside Bernardo Silva. Mahrez returns to the starting 11 on the right-hand side. Grealish keeps his spot over on the left, and Erling Haaland up front. As we look to the bench as well, we've got Ortega, Calvin Phillips, Nathan Ake, Ilkay Gundogan, Julian Alvarez, Gomez, Akanji, Cole Palmer and Rico Lewis. That is 3 changes from that 3-0 win against Bayern Munich on Tuesday night. Neil, let's begin looking at the attacking side of the pitch, and I mean, just as a whole, how impressed have you been with the ever-changing forward 3 of Manchester City?
Look, I mean, Haaland's a phenomenon, you know, in the modern game. Could go on to be the best striker of all time, the way he's going. To score the volume of goals and against all the top teams, Kel, is brilliant. I think Jack is having a sensational period in his City career. I think he looks fit. His work rate is brilliant. For the second goal the other night when he won the ball off Upamecano, changed the game. City get the second goal, and sometimes that's not recognised by people, the amount of work that the City wingers have to do. I've always been a huge fan of Mahrez anyway, and I was amazed that, well, not amazed, but he went with Bernardo Silva on the right wing. But it's horses for courses with Pep, you know, when he's picking teams for certain competitions and opposition, and he got it bang on. It was for me, the other night was one of the best City performances I've seen in Europe.
Yes, I agree.
It was phenomenal, you know, to beat a team with that pedigree, and not just beat them. It's like Paul says, you know, Sommer made some great saves. But second half, they just overpowered Bayern Munich, and that doesn't happen very often, Kel.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul, that was something I think had been building over the years. But, I mean, where were you with those moments in attack that kind of really stood out? Who was it that was making the difference?
Do you know what? And this might, coming from a centre forward, Joleon will probably appreciate that. I thought the back 4 won the game for them. Yeah. You know, I thought they gave them such a solid base. Whereas previous in Europe in the big games, we've went all out attacking. We've looked really open at the back. Yes. You know, but I thought the back 4 centre-halves, I thought they showed a real desire, not just to stop the ball going in their net, but when we were on the ball, they showed us they started us off an attacking threat as well. Yeah. You know, and I keep talking about Nathan Ake. I know he's not playing today. I think he's outstanding. I actually think he's one of the main reasons why we're seeing the best of Jack. Yeah. You know, because when Nathan gets the ball, and I'm sure it'll probably be Laporte today, the first thing they do is they just get it out their feet and give it to Jack. And it's nothing against Cancelo or the other players that have played behind, but they want to bomb forward. And then if Jack does lose the ball, I think Jack's had a thing in his head when he's been playing with an attacking fullback behind him that he just doesn't want to lose it.
Yes. But it also means that when it's attacking fullback, that means their winger has to track back.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's less space and more players. So
it's a really good point.
The fact that Nathan Ake doesn't want to overlap means their winger will be thinking, well, I've done my job, I'll stay here. And then all of a sudden Jack's 1v1. So yeah, it's just isolating, and whether Pep's recognised that, I don't know, but it's working out wonders.
I think it gives Jack that security blanket, knowing that he can go at him, and if he doesn't beat him, Nathan Ake's there. You know, he's got that defensive shield behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's rare that Jack loses the ball. And Paul, I know you've mentioned on the show when you spoke to him, but Joleon, for you, what do you think it is that's just clicked for him? And we've always said on this show, I think the outside noise, particularly last season, was, I think, very harsh on Jack. Yeah. But we are seeing now a Jack Grealish there. You know, I think even Dean Smith has said, you know, he's a once in a generational talent.
No, I just think he believes and he's confident, and having played the game, when you're confident, you feel like invincible. Yeah. So you feel faster, stronger, you see the game a bit easier and a bit clearer. So all them elements mean that Jack, we're seeing the best of Jack. Obviously, he was frustrated. There was going to be scrutiny due to his price tag and whatever, but in regards to someone that loves the game, dedicates his life to the game in regards to wanting to improve, Jack's that guy. So I'm not surprised at what we're seeing, to be honest. I'm not surprised because he's a phenomenon.
Neil, it was interesting, you were saying it off camera, but you actually came up against a young Erling Haaland when I think it was Hibs came up against Mo. I mean, could you even see then?
Oh, he didn't play in the first game at Easter Road. We drew 0-0. Solskjaer was the manager at Molde, and then Erling played in the second game, unfortunately for us. and he'd have been maybe 18 at the time, and we were just looking at him going, wow. He scored 2, they beat us 3-0, and he went to Salzburg maybe a week or 2 later for about 12 million quid. But, I mean, that stuck in my mind. I was just thinking, this kid's going to be something sincere. So I'm not really surprised about his development and the way his career's gone, because he just has so much natural talent. And I love my big strikers. I played with some good ones, Heskey and Sutton and John Hartson. But he's just, another level, like, in terms of not just his all-round play, his speed, Paul, and his finishing. Right foot, left foot, headers. And he's just hungry all the time.
It's athleticism. Like, this isn't an assist for anyone else other than him.
Yeah.
Like, maybe Zlatan at a time, but like, that's why he separates him.
Any other striker tries to take that down.
Or not. Or it's overhit. Yeah. You can put a ball into an area where you know that it's impossible for the defender to get, and it's only possible for him to get.
It's amazing as well. I think we were chatting off camera. You have to be selfish as a striker, and if you take someone like Zlatan, that was always very much Zlatan was the man. But then you see the assist that he gave in Munich against Munich. He's also got that team element of his game as well, Paul, which you kind of get in the best of both worlds then, really.
Yeah, look, first and foremost, he wants to score as many goals as he can. It's in his makeup, it's in his nature, it's in his mentality. But I was actually quite surprised when he's got the ball in that position, because I think he's just going to shoot. It's on his left foot and everything else, but it just shows you that he's improving all the time, his game. And maybe at the start of the season he would have took that
shot. He
shot
shot in the first half, and then he might have recognised the whole situation in the second half. So he's obviously an intelligent player, but you want your strikers to be selfish. I wanted my strikers to be selfish, because they're the ones that are going to win you the game. And obviously he's winning more games than he's losing.
And Andy Cole is the record, 34 goals in a single season. Is he going to beat it?
When today? If he scored 5 goals today, you're not going, oh wow. You're just going, yeah. That's
we're taking it for granted.
He shouldn't.
He'll tell you, and I'll tell you, because I didn't get many. The hardest thing in football is scoring goals.
Yes.
And he's looking like the big kid in the playground. He is. He's scoring 5 goals in the Champions League games. He's scoring bundles of hat tricks. It's such. I know we're talking like figures that are off the scale. It's like something that happened in the 1800s. It's ridiculous, the volume of goals he scores.
How do you keep the groundedness then? Because as you say, we kind of, you come to expect it. I know you know Alfie a little bit, but you don't want to get carried away, but how does he himself not get carried away?
Obviously his dad's a major factor in that, and the team that he's got behind him. They're been fortunate to spend a lot of time with Alfie when he comes over, and they just talk about keeping a lot of his endorsement deals. They don't always go for the biggest and best one. They want to go through levels. And they were saying that when he signed for Salzburg, even they were, I think it was Audi they were sponsored by. They wanted to give him a top of the range Audi, and the team went, no, we'll give him the A3. They said, although we needed a sunroof because his head would stick through. But that's what they're like with him. And they say Erling himself, he's like that. He just wants to get better and better and better. And saying, is it 45 goals he's got in all competitions now? It's like, I didn't score that in 20 years, I don't think.
I scored 36 in my career.
Yeah.
My whole career was 36 goals. It's like one season.
It's frightening. Quick word as well, Joleon, on Riyad Mahrez. Comes back into the side. He's been involved in 6 goals in his last 6 Premier League games against Leicester, so likes his fixture played there. But again, he's another player, I think, that when he's on, unplayable.
Yeah, this is probably one you don't recognise with him, right foot. But yeah, Riyad Mahrez is so effective, and I think he probably is one of the least appreciated players that we have, not by our fans, but I'm just in general. I think he's so efficient, and you never want to face Riyad Mahrez 1v1, and the way we play, our wingers are 1v1 a lot of the time, so it never surprises me when he's in the team. I understood the decision to play Bernardo the other day, because again, defensively he's probably stronger than Riyad, but attacking, 1v1, I would say he's the most comfortable player in possession.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is our attacking focus. We're going to look at the City team throughout the show. I'm going to bring you the Leicester team news in just a second, but let me just remind you how you get in contact with the show. We've got a WhatsApp number that appears on your screen now. If you've got any questions for our guests, or you want to pass comment, or maybe something that you would like us to explore a little bit, that's your way you can get in touch with us. I'll get to those in just a little bit. And also, don't forget, Manchester City app is how you can get on Recast and also exclusive match commentary. Today's Andy Morrison and Alistair Mann. We'll hear from them in a little bit as well. So Leicester are today's opponents. Let me bring you their starting 11 now. It looks like this. Iverson in goal. Then at the back we've got Castagne, Soyuncu, Sutar and Faze. Then we've got Christensen, Dewsbury Hall, brilliant player, Tillsman's captains the side with Ndidi. Then we've got Maddison and Jamie Vardy, which that does mean he makes his 300th Premier League appearance, the first player to do that for Leicester City in this competition. On the bench as well, Ward, Amate, Thomas, Mendy, Prayet, we've got Tete, Ian Echo, of course, a name that'll be familiar with all City fans, and Daka. Paul, we've spoke about our striker. Let's begin with theirs. 300th Premier League appearance from first to do it for Leicester, and he does like scoring a goal against City.
He does. His record here at the Etihad as well is fantastic. And Jamie Vardy's a top striker. I know people are talking about his age and maybe getting on a little bit, but he's got a big influence in his team, Neil, as well, isn't he?
Oh, he's a brilliant player, and he has been for a long, long time. I've been a big admirer of Jamie's for a long time. And you know, the year when Leicester won the league, he was phenomenal. Obviously, he's getting on in years, but he's still got that fantastic speed, and he's got a high IQ as well, Cale.
Yes.
You know, he's got a great football brain, and I was just concerned whether he wasn't playing as much towards the end under Brendan, but it's good to see him starting today. And I think with the formation that Dean Smith's gone, I think it's sensible to go with a back three against City. Yeah.
Why do you think the back three is sensible then? What do you think that is?
Well, one, it gives you an extra defender in there. You can go to a 5, because let's get it right, they're not going to dominate the ball. And what they've got with Vardy is an out ball. Mm-hmm. But they've got to fill in the spaces around the box to stop the De Bruynes, the Silvas getting into those little pockets that are left when maybe Erling Haaland comes out. And I think, you know, if you look at the results here, you know, Brentford went 3-5-2 the win, and then Frank Lampard came to Everton and we got a point. So if you play with a back four against City, eventually they'll kill you.
Yes.
And I think just with the situation that Leicester in, he's got to load it up with defensive-minded players and then have a get-out ball, which he has with Vardy.
And obviously goals is going to be important to their survival, and one man who can help create them is James Maddison. When he's on, Joleon, he's a tough man to stop.
Oh, definitely. An exceptional player, influential as well in all that they do. It's going to be tough for him today because he's used to having the ball, and that's when he's at his best. But like Neil said, then they're going to be large spells. They ain't going to have the ball, and you're going to have to concentrate with a different focus, and then be clinical when you do receive it. And it may be 20, 30 yards deeper than he usually gets it, especially in the opposition half. So a tough day for Leicester today, but it made sense their formation change because if you come here with a 4, City play with sometimes a 5 up front anyway, so all of a sudden you're outnumbered, so it makes sense.
Paul, a former club as well, and we're going to focus on Dean Smith, obviously, who's come in to take over from Brendan Rodgers. But where do you think it's just not quite clicked for Leicester this season?
It's a tough one. You know, you look a couple of seasons ago winning the FA Cup, last couple of seasons looking as if they're going to get Champions League right up to the very latter stages, and maybe that's had the disappointment for the last 2 seasons had a knock-on effect, you know. And it's well known out there that they've not had a lot of money to spend. You know, they sold Fofana for 70-odd million. Weren't even
that's been the
to reinvest.
But again, the strange one for me was Schmeichel. I didn't see why you would feel to sell him or just let him leave the club. I just felt he was arguably top 5 in the league.
But then I think
every season.
I think that goes back to the finances behind the scene, you know, about getting him off the wage bill. But because they were struggling, the new training ground, the money they've spent over the last, you know, the new training ground,
150 million on a training ground.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And for me, far be it from me to criticise anyone, I just think it's it's all right having a great training ground, but you've got to have the players.
Yeah, exactly. Having it in the Championship.
So it was really difficult the last year, 18 months for Brendan, because there was no fresh investment going into the team. And Paul makes a great point about Fofana. You know, great buy, bought him for 20-odd million, sell him for 70. Well, can I have some of that money, please, to invest in the team? And he never got it.
Well, the importance of investment, you know, in the club structure as a whole, but in the team, I guess, is never more important in the Premier League, given where the standards are at now.
Yeah, of course. And as I said, every team's trying to improve every year anyway, regardless of what your objectives are. But they didn't. Not only did they not buy, they sell Fofana and Schmeichel. Yeah. And I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. If you're going to sell them and still try and recruit players of that quality, well, try to do it, then it makes sense. That's the nature of the game. But to sell 2 of your most or consistent performers and not replace them, it doesn't make sense.
There's a great stat here, a name that Manchester City fans all know, Kelechi Iheanacho, of course. Now, if he does come on and he does score, he will be the second former Manchester City player to score in consecutive Premier League away games against Man City since what player? Paul Dickov in 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
What is it like when you score against...
Brilliant. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, it is. I think everybody knows I'm Man City.
Well, it was interesting because we were having...
get the full question.
We were having, because obviously there was the Cancelo chat in the Bayern Munich game, and we was asking what is it like coming up against your former teammates, you know, and does it give you that extra little...
It was a big thing for me at the time because I never wanted to leave in the first place. You know, Kevin Keegan had told me I was too small and not aggressive enough to play in his team.
What?
Well, which was something.
Too small thing I get.
Yeah, I couldn't change that.
The aggression.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Kept shorty though.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, and that's something that really stuck with me. It wouldn't put me in the squad. Would train, go in the reserves. Wasn't a bad egg at all. Yeah. And he just wouldn't let me go. And even when I signed for Leicester, he tried to stop it because he said to me, Leicester won the Premier League at the time and City won the Championship. And he actually said to me that if I go to Leicester and score goals like he thought I would make him look stupid. Yeah. And so things like that. So when I came back, I was like, I was like ready to go. Yes. And when I scored, celebrated. You know, it's the only game I get cheered on and booed off. But I loved that as well.
Of course.
It meant I'd done my job properly. You know.
Well, that's it. And then you came back anyway, so we were all better for it. All right, let's take a slight pause here in the studio. As I say, for your exclusive Matchday commentary, you can get that on the Manchester City app. It's with Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison, and they are pitchside now, giving us their thoughts ahead of our game against Leicester City.
Thanks, Kel. Welcome to Pitchside. We've just been digesting the team news. Alongside me, Andy Morrison will be on co-commentary duty with me later on today. Andy, the emotion and the exhaustion, mental exhaustion of Tuesday night against Bayern Munich. How difficult is it for the first team players to just keep raising it for a Premier League game in between the Champions League fixtures?
Yeah, the word you just said there, mental. Physically, these players are, you know, at a different level now with sports science and the way their whole life revolves. Not that ours didn't, but their whole world revolves around football and the preparation. But mentally, I think that's where my admiration for especially Manchester City players, because to go again, and then you've got to go again, and you can't be thinking about going across to the Allianz Arena. You can't be there. You've got to be here in the moment, and to raise a game again and go. But listen, they're special players, and part of that quality of being a special player is also the ability to be able to deal with that mental side of it. To come down after a game and then raise up again gradually, to go again, come down and go again, and they do it exceptionally well.
And talking about going again and going again, he's kept the spine intact again. He's got Diaz, he's got De Bruyne, he's got Haaland. No temptation to rest those players. Why do you think he keeps that level of player week in, week out, even though there's so many competitions?
One player slips you there, and it's Rodri.
And
Rodri's the key.
I meant Rodri, yeah.
And I get because, but we just take it for granted.
Yeah.
Rodri. And for me, it's player of the season. And I know there's been so many people. Jack's having a special time, and Haaland's rightly getting the plaudits. Rodri is the mainstay for me every game. I look at that team, and when I see him in there, because he is exceptional and he's at the top of his game. And for me, of course, Diaz is playing. Everybody's playing well at the moment, but Rodri never ever dips off. His mental preparation and the way he plays the game, I just find it incredible. Because he, for me, is the key. And he, for me, this season has been the standout player.
Up against a side who are in desperate need of a victory for completely different reasons. When you look at their team and you look at the quality they have, how surprised are you that they are where they are?
Yeah, there's 6, 7, 8 teams that could go down, that are battling. And it's a unique season because normally 2 are cut adrift. And then, you know, 1 gets sucked into it. But this season seems to be slightly different. And they're in there, you know, and they're not winning enough games of football. And we had a real job turning them over at their place, because they went with probably one of the deepest blocks I've ever seen. It was literally 2 yards outside their box. And they were, you know, it took a a free kick, an exceptional free kick to change the game. But then when they came out the last 10 minutes, they had a couple of half chances, so they have the ability. But I don't know, without being in there, you're not sure why, but no team has the right. I mean, look at the teams that go on a run. Crystal Palace have won a couple. They'll be thinking if we win a couple of games. But, for the new manager to come in and had to come to the Etihad, I think it's a free hit. I really do. I think it's a free hit because he'll be looking at it and saying, lads, let's just go up and enjoy it. We're not going to be judged on this one. And if it goes well, great. But if it doesn't, we'll start again. So they'll come here and enjoy it, but, believing they can get a result.
Should we be fearful of Jamie Vardy? He's never scored more goals than he has against Pep Guardiola's City. That's the statistic.
Yeah, and he's very dangerous, and it's the space in behind, the way City play. It is perfect for a player such as Vardy. And he's just an angry man who wants to score goals, and I love him. He's infectious, he's intense, and he's always a threat. If you put enough balls into the box, hopefully they won't be putting a lot of balls into the box. The only danger we'll have is him on the turnover.
Just one final question to you. Gut feeling about today, what is it?
I think it's a win. I'm always slightly careful, but I think they'll score because I think the way we play creates opportunities for opposition. But I think a 3 or 4-1 win, and I think it will be a comfy afternoon. But also mindful that Leicester on a really good day are a tough opposition.
The thoughts of Andy Morris and myself and Andy will bring you the commentary, so make sure you download the app. Should be an interesting game, this one. Back to you, Kel.
Thanks, Ali. Thanks, Andy. Back to us in the studio. And as we know, Leicester have got a new manager in charge, Dean Smith. I know Leicester City fans will be hoping for that new manager bounce back. And Ollie's actually already done my job because to begin this chat, I'm going to ask this question that's coming on WhatsApp. And it's for you, Neil. He says, Dean Smith was appointed only 4 days ago. As a manager, how difficult is it to make a positive impact on a squad that is low on confidence?
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Although sometimes you can go into a situation and there's no pressure on you to start with. Listen, it's a baptism of fire here, Kel, as well.
Yeah.
First game City away, you couldn't have got a worse game. So there's no pressure on Dean. What I mean by that is the expectation to get something here today is not great, right? What they'll be looking for is some sort of performance that they can take into the next few games. It's always good to have a different voice and a different way of playing, but to transmit that in 4 days is impossible.
Yeah.
So basically, they probably watched the game on Tuesday night and thought, well, we're in trouble here. Yeah. And we knew that going into the game, so let's set up to be difficult to beat and see if we can get something on the counter-attack because, we're playing against one of the best teams in Europe. I just think that the 2 games after Brendan left, Villa at home and Bournemouth at home, really damaging for Leicester.
Yeah.
It's particularly Bournemouth at home, that's a 6-pointer. And then you knew you were coming to City here the week after. That was a must-win game for me. I don't want to see them go down, but they're in trouble.
They're in trouble. So Dean Smith is also brought in, I think he's brought Craig Shakespeare's coming back and John Terry. So as a team of managers and coaches, Paul, what did you make of the appointment as a whole?
Yeah, but I've known Dean. I managed against Dean when he was at Walsall, and you could tell then he was going to be a top manager. And obviously his team of Craig Shakespeare. Craig was actually assistant manager when I was there second time, and he's a fantastic coach. Knows the club inside out. He's been assistant there under Nigel, then he's managed there, and Dean Shakey had a lot of credit for them winning the league. I know Ranieri was the manager, but behind the scenes, he asked the players at that time. He was the one that really got them at it and got them going. So having him back in, and obviously JT, and as in a relegation battle, they know what it's like. They've been there before with Villa,
Yes.
and they'll use that experience there. But I agree with Neil. There's no real pressure on them today because nobody's expecting them to win. But sometimes that can work in their favour.
Of course it can, yeah.
Because they're going out there playing with a bit of freedom.
Yeah.
Under the new manager, so that little bit will kick them on a bit as well.
They've been on a terrible run, though, Kel.
Yeah.
For Leicester, who've been. Paul touched on it, and Joleon. They almost made the Champions League a couple of years. They won the FA Cup. And I know there's been no investment, but if you look at some of there's real quality in that team,
absolutely.
but they're playing with no confidence.
Yeah.
And they're not scoring enough goals at the minute. And if they could get something out of this game, it would be magnificent. If they don't, then they've just got to take the next 7 or 8 games as cup finals.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the players, Joleon, they're obviously in the difficult moment, as we've said there, but that new manager thing, it could maybe be the thing that was that little spark maybe they need, maybe not in today's game, but for these important 8-9 games that are left.
Yeah, definitely. It's an opportunity for some players that haven't been playing as well. When there's a new manager comes in and you haven't been in the team, you kind of expecting there to be changes, because obviously what's been happening hasn't been going well. So the players that have come in, they'll be keen to impress and owe something to Dean Smith. So there'll be definitely a different approach to this game. Whether it's enough to get anything out of it, I'm not sure. And from a City point of view, I'd be more nervous if it was, say, a Sean Dyche type of manager that was coming in and was going to set up to be super defensive for this game to get something out of it. I still believe Dean Smith plays in a way that can suit Man City. I think he's respected them enough to put 5 at the back, but I still feel there's opportunities to score goals.
Cheers, Joleon. The boys are out on the pitch there. There's the big man up front, Erling Haaland, having a little jog.
He's running like me there.
Let's then turn our attention to a team that are having quite the opposite of fortunes at the moment, still on the hunt for 3 trophies off the back of that unbelievable performance. I'm just going to keep saying it on Tuesday night against Bayern Munich. Couple changes in defence, Joleon, but I want to ask you just how impressive, and Paul alluded to it at the start of the show, that it was the foundation at the back that allowed us to do what we did up front, but just how good were our defence, including Ederson on Tuesday night?
Outstanding. Like I said, I think over recent years we've become accustomed to defending in possession and just dominating the ball so much, it limits the opposition, and that's how we've got a lot of our clean sheets. I think the other night we showed that, no, if we don't have possession and we've faced up 1v1 and there's possession in our final third, we can cope. And Bayern Munich had some attempts on goal, but they were limited from outside the box. And they're the kind of opportunities you want to give up to opposition. You don't want them to get behind you and create tap-ins the same like we do. But I think Akanji and Nathan Ake are 2 of the most comfortable centre-halves in 1v1 areas, especially as fullbacks. And I just think it just allows the rest of the team to kind of, like we said about Jack, to just enjoy their roles and create opportunities, because they know if they do concede possession, that they can nullify the attack.
Yes. And we've seen, I mean, there's been so many plaudits. I also think he got the UEFA Player of the Week in the Champions League. John Stones turned CDM. It looks like he's going to go back to a traditional centre-half position. What do you think the thinking is in bringing Walker back into the team, Paul?
And just one to freshen it up a bit as well. You know, and Kanji and Ake, they're probably the 2 most worked players the other night there. You know, and I'm pleased to see Laporte coming back in as well, because it must have been tough for him. But you know, but when you've got Kyle Walker on the bench and Laporte on the bench, it just shows you how good the 4 in there that are playing at the minute. Yeah,
I see Laporte doing that John Stones role, because he spoke about Kyle not being able to do it the same way, and not everyone has the skill set of John Stones, but Kyle Walker offers different positives. But Laporte, I could see him stepping into midfield and operating as a 6 and allowing the 3 at the back, and that'd be Walker, Stones and Diaz in the middle.
Julian, do you think he'll, just looking at it there, he'll still use John Stones in that position, having Kyle there?
So you think
on the right side?
Push, so he'd slide forward and then Kyle
Stones coming in?
Maybe. The only reason I would say not is because then it would mean Walker inside him a lot. And then it would mean Diaz moving over out to being the outside one, because then Walker would have to be the middle defender. And I think Diaz is best at that, and Walker's attributes would lead him to be one of the wide ones. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's outside and Diaz still operates in the middle of
It's the worst thing, trying to second guess what Pep's going to do though, with the players that he's got.
I know, and my job is to ask you all every week, and we never know really.
What fascinates me, we're talking to the boys about it off camera at the start, when he was at Barcelona, Kelly, little players.
Yes.
You know, he revolutionised the game with them, because then you had the big French players winning the World Cup, your Vieiras, and everyone was looking for those type of players. And then he comes in and Xavi, Iniesta, Dani Alves, Messi, all that size. And now I'm looking at this team, and it's totally different. You know, you've got 4 big boys at the back. You've got Rodri, who's, you know, a specimen. You got the goalkeeper, who's a specimen, and then you got Haaland up front. So you're looking at 7 6-foot-plus boys, you know, who can play. And defensively, he's obviously looked at this for the Champions League going, we've been too open in the past, we've been poor at set play defensively, and he's sort of evolved the team. And also this hybrid where he's playing 3 and two pivots with John Stones and Rodri. It's fascinating because he never did that. He always just had the 1-6.
Yes.
And now he's playing with two and, the three centre halves. And again, he's evolving the game in his own sort of mind. It's fascinating to watch.
The question for all three of you, maybe beginning with you, but just for in layman's terms, what is it that it does for City that with John Stones when he goes into that number 6 role, and why is it seem to have just clicked and worked really well?
I think, if you look at City over the years, when they got beat, they were counter-pressed, and with the fullbacks high and wide, and I think he wants to lose that now. And you've got the three centre halves and John can drop back in to make a 4 if he needs to at times, but the extra defensive midfield player sometimes invites the team in narrow, and then they can get it out to Jack and Mahrez and players that got pretty early, and then still play through the lines at times as well. It's interesting, he tried it with Zabaleta a long time, about 5-6 years ago in one opening game, and it didn't work for him. And Arteta's doing it laterally with Zinchenko and people like that, but they now seem to have cracked it.
Yes.
And you look at that performance on Tuesday night, and he said after the game, he put 10 years on, he will have needed a lot of rest after that game, because mentally, he would have put so much into that preparation for the game, and then you see him on the touchline, Kel.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
That's that game in itself.
It's
It's
fascinating watching him, how much the game meant to him.
And Joleon, I mean, it's a very obvious question again. How difficult is it to do what John Stones is doing?
Ridiculously difficult from the centre half's point of view, and the defender's point of view. Like when you hear Manon as a defender, it goes straight back to where it ever came from. It literally goes straight back there. Whoever passes it to me is getting it back. So for him to be able to receive it on the half turn and in space, and then not only is he just doing that, he's affecting the opposition. And for me, when he goes in there, and I think that's why Pep played inverted fullbacks, because then the wingers have to go inside. That means if you do lose the ball, their wingers or their threat is inside. So it's not out wide. Yeah. So the distance to cover isn't as great, and their best attribute is not exposed because you're inside marking our fullback. So not everyone can do it, no way. And John Stones is unique to that. But again, I think that all the players complement each other, because I think we've tried it with Rico, but when it was Rico, he kind of had to recover as a fullback because he can't recover as centre half, and that didn't suit the team. And then we tried it with Rodri, who wasn't able to transition back and forward as quick as John Stones. But with Kanji, Stones comes inside, and as soon as he drops into centre half, Akanji can go to a fullback area. So I think the personnel is so unique to this formation.
And they can all rotate.
But this isn't something that's happened overnight. This has been like years in his thinking, and especially when playing against the likes of Liverpool, who would always have basically their wingers narrow. So if they win the ball and your fullbacks are here, they're coming through you at ease. So he's obviously thought about this and said, what's another way I can affect this?
But also, like Neil said, when you get it from a centre-back point of view, so whether it's the wider centre-backs, because the fullbacks are inside, the forward pass is straight to the winger.
Yes.
Because they're inside, they're so narrow, occupying by John Stones, we can straight pass to Mahrez or Jack Grealish.
The quick word as well, Paul, because I know sometimes with Ederson, we know what he gives us going forward. Sometimes the shot stopping, I mean, I never question it, but I know some City fans do.
Yeah.
But I know, but on Tuesday night, it was there for all to see, and that key save against Leroy Sané in that pivotal moment in the second half. Brilliant performance.
It was great, and he made a couple of good saves first half before that as well. But the one from Sané was, it's a match-winning save, isn't it? Bayern just after the second half.
Yeah.
If they get back at 1-1, you don't know how the game's going to change, and all the best teams, and these guys know that successful teams have top goalkeepers.
Yeah.
And they're massive just for moments like that, because they won't have a lot to do. Ederson, 90%, 95% of the time in games has nothing to do apart from have the ball at his feet and range 40-yard ridiculous passes with them. So the concentration level, and I think in terms especially Champions League, that was a huge save, and we should give them the credit for it, because I've never. I can't get my head around how some of the fans have been questioning them. It's just been ridiculous.
What? No, seriously, the fans questioning him.
No, I hear sometimes conversations about shot stopping ability. That's the only thing. I mean,
when has he ever let us down? I don't know if there's ever been an incident when you're thinking.
No.
It's probably because he's never done it.
Presenting the fan point of view.
Kel's just chucked a grenade in there for us.
But speaking of fans, actually, what a segue, Kel. Now, if you notice, I mean, Paul, I know you've gone on them, and Joleon, it's our trophy activation tour, which goes around all the world. And I've got to say, as a City fan in Manchester, it's great to see the fans all around the world. If they've been going, they've had the chance to win a trip to Manchester, and today is that day. And we can now hear from our competition winners from around the world. We've got Michael from the UAE, we've got John from Holland, and Raymond from Sweden. We can hear from them now who are at today's game.
It's a fantastic competition. My wife entered it on the City app, and we've been flown out from Dubai, put up in a hotel, taken around the stadium tour. Fantastic stadium, best in England, obviously, and it's been a great day. It's been a really good experience.
And as a City fan with your wife for the last couple of decades, who might be your favourite player for Man City?
Hers is Foden, but mine is De Bruyne. So I've got a lot of respect for Kevin. For me it's Kevin, yeah.
And when you see the lineup today, what names are you particularly looking forward to seeing on the team sheet?
Not so much on the team sheet. I'm really keen to see Haaland and the flesh on the pitch. Foden as well. Hopefully, get him out on the pitch. Homegrown guy, supporter from a kid. Just looking forward to seeing all the guys out there actually.
And if I could trouble you for a score prediction, what might you think it will be at full time today?
Well, I've came here for the 5-0, so anything less is just not good enough.
I couldn't believe I actually won just by clicking that I would love to come over here. And when I first heard about it, I couldn't believe it actually. So I was asking, is this real? Is this real? Is this really going to happen? But yeah, everything has been great since I knew it's real, and it's cool to be here now.
Is it your first time here? I believe you've done a stadium tour. What did you think of the Etihad?
It's really nice to get that inside tour just before you see actually a match, because everything is quiet, and when we see the match later on, it's going to be intense with all the crowd. And now you have like a slow start, and to feel yourself welcome and be part of the club, and yeah, that's been great.
And you've been watching City for a long time now. Who is your favourite player in the sky blue?
Yeah, as I told you, I come from the Netherlands. I come from The Hague, and there's like one player in the squad now, Nathan Ake, who's actually from the city where I live now. So I support him today.
I have been a City fan since the season 1967-1968, and I live in a place called Landskrona, which is near Malmö in Sweden.
And you won a competition to be here today. Could you just explain what that competition is and what you've been getting up to in and around Manchester?
Oh, it's been fantastic. The competition was the Trophy Tour competition, and I won a trip for two with air flight, 3 nights in a hotel, and 2 match tickets, plus a tour around Manchester City today.
And what have you thought of the Etihad Stadium on your tour of it today?
Oh, it's fantastic. It is fantastic. What a building.
And you've been a City fan since the 60s, so my next question for you is, who is your favourite Manchester City player of all time?
Of all time, there is many, but it must be King Colin Bell.
And what's your favourite what is your favourite memory of King Colin?
Oh, everything he did, his style, his passing, his goals, helping the other players, and what a team. Colin Bell, Francis Lee, Mike Summerby. The three of them was the greatest.
Well, who knows? If you want to be like those fans there and possibly win a trip to Manchester, wherever you are in the world, you can do. You just head over to mancity.com/citizens, and you never know, we could be interviewing you outside the Etihad Stadium at a game soon. Now, our very special guest today making his debut is Neil Lennon. And Neil, you began your career at City, then before kind of moving on, then you had some great success at Leicester. Do you recall that one appearance or your time at City?
Of course, yeah. I was 16 years of age. And played at Birmingham. We won 3-0. Liam Brightwell scored 2. But I got an ankle injury after the game, and it was sort of like this time of the season, Kel. So I didn't play the rest of the season because it hurt my ankle. And then obviously I was part of the squad at 17, 18. But it was brilliant. I had an unbelievable time here. Opened my eyes up to, culturally, life away from home. and the football side of things. I had a brilliant coaching education here. I mean, I was with Jerry Taggart, Ashley Ward, Mickey Hughes, Steve Loomis, Paul Warhurst, Paul Lake, Inchy, you know, the Brightwells and that, David White, and they won the Youth Cup in, I think, 86, and then we got the final in 88 and lost. We had a brilliant youth setup. We were two old coaches. It was Tony Book and Glenn Pardo, two legends, like. And the education they gave me, you know, stood me in good stead for the rest of my career. It was amazing.
Stood you in good stead because your playing career, I mean, as a player, you've won 5 Scottish Premier League titles, 4 Scottish Cups, 2 Scottish League Cups, and you were an integral part of the Celtic side that reached the UEFA Cup final. Then obviously went on to manage as well. And was that education not only informing you as a player, but then as what you did as a coach as well?
Yeah, of course. You know, like, I had 10 years under Martin O'Neill, which was, you know, working under him in his pomp was just fantastic, you know. He was a winner. And we won 2 League Cups with Leicester as well, you know. We got the 3 finals. And Leicester, that Leicester's not the Leicester it is now, you know, with the money and the new owners. So I had a brilliant education under him. I had a brilliant education under Tony and Glenn, and the managers that were here. Mel Machin was brilliant with the young players. And then Howard Kendall came in. He was a, you know, Premier, well, back then it was the first division. You know, he'd won it twice with Everton. And working with him for a year, you know, he's learning about things like game management and pass appreciation and understanding of the game. And in the end, you know, he called me and he goes, look, it's bad news for you, son, I'm going to let you go. And I thought, it was a real kick in the backside, but I met him about 6 years later in New York, and he went, I made a mistake, son. I shouldn't have let you go. I was at Leicester at the time and playing really well in the Premier League. But by 3 years here were just wonderful, Kel. And then I've been very lucky. You know, football's been very good to me, and I've had a great sort of education, and you pass that on to other people then.
Absolutely. I wonder, I mean, not even not a club, did you ever meet at, like, under 20s or that international level? Did you ever play against?
I'm Irish, he's Scottish.
Yeah. Just to say you ever play against.
Last time I saw Dick, he was in Quinta del Lago in the Chinese. Yeah. with a couple of vinos out there, you know.
Both sober, a couple.
But he's
a quick dozen.
Dickie's well thought of everywhere, you know. Here, Leicester, he's a legend. They love him up in Scotland. A good friend of mine went to school with him, and he was saying, make sure you mention Dickie to me today, so I'll give him a mention. And I don't think we played against each other very often, because I went to Celtic in 2000. Yeah. And I played here once, Cale, at the Etihad with Leicester, and we won 1-0. Oh, there you are.
Tell you what.
It's a bad haircut, that, by the way. That's me opening up the groins there, Julie.
Played against each other once.
Was it here?
No, at Filbert Street. You came down with Celtic. It was a testimonial.
Oh, testimonial game, right.
And it was carnage afterwards, so we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, was good night, wasn't it?
So Joleon just talked to me and was like, I haven't.
I've played against Dickie, mate. No way. No way. No way, mate. He knew he was in a game.
He's a pest.
Oh, I'll tell you what used to wind me up is that I knew he was going to be wearing studs. Like, if your striker's wearing studs that you're playing against, you're in
trouble.
Yeah, you're in trouble. And he was wearing studs. World Cups.
I used to wear studs in 5-a-side.
Yeah, mate. He loved it. Loves it.
Do you know what? It's so funny because we were doing some research for the show, and there's a list out which is named some of the hardest players in Leicester City's history. And 2 names on that list, which, I mean, we know by playing, but off camera, the 2 the nicest guys in football, Neil Lennon and Paul Dickov. What was it about you think your games? Was that something you always wanted to bring? There was that fact. I mean,
I had like my job was to win the ball back. You know, it was like a pivot, a 6, and you know, I had to put my foot in. You know, I wasn't dirty. Like, you know, my disciplinary record was pretty good. But you know, I was smaller, like squat, so I had to make sure my upper body was strong, and I always had big legs, like. And it was just a case of winning the ball, using your body in the right way, and getting the ball, and intimidating people at times as well. If you could get one over, and Joleon will tell you, Dickie will tell you, you use the psychological. You know, Roy Keane, people like that, you know, trying to get people's heads before a ball was kicked, and I was the same, especially, you know, at Leicester and then went up to Celtic.
Yeah.
You know, if you took a backward step, people would jump all over you, Cale. So you had to sort of. It wasn't dirty, like it was tough.
Yes,
you know?
yeah.
So the toughest player I played against, right? And this will surprise you. There's a guy called the late Gary Speed, right?
Yes.
Gary Speed, when he hit you in a tackle, You felt it from the ankle all the way up to, and you know that one where you don't want to let on your hurt.
Yeah.
And you're trying not to limp away. You're like, it didn't hurt me, like, you know, but you are in like bits. And in the air, Gary was imperial. I hated the way Joleon hates playing against Dickie. I hated playing against Gary.
Yeah.
But not one you'd expect, like, you know.
Yeah, no, cool. What about you, Paul? One of the toughest players. I mean, I think you're on a lot of people's list, but who'd be one of your toughest players?
A couple, and Joe was one of them because Joe was quick and then saying that. Not looking forward. I couldn't get in Joe's head.
Yeah,
I couldn't get in his head. There's a lot of even like people at Rio and that. I knew I could get at them, whether it be verbally or smashing them. I remember playing. Don't know if Joe was at Wolves, and we were playing at the Walker Stadium. The balls went in the corner flag, and he's shepherding it out, and I've left one on him. And he's just got up and sort of dusted himself down and ran past me. Now that was a nightmare for me.
Yeah.
I wanted him to come up and start pushing. I needed to get something to get started. Another player was Ledley King. As well, you know, if Ledley didn't. Joe, knee injuries. Two top players, but they were unflappable when you played against them. Whereas for me, that was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, you can't get a bite.
It used to make the worst.
Yeah, that was the same way. If I didn't get a bite out of somebody, Kel, you'd be raging about it. Like, it winds you up even more without even doing anything.
You know?
Yeah, that's it. What about you?
As I said, if strikers used to try and talk to me, I'll just mute. I couldn't get involved, never got involved. Drogba was one. He used to do it in a friendly way. So try and talk to you about what's going on, and all of a sudden the ball would be there. You'd be like, "What's going on here?" You know what I mean? So I never used to get involved in banter, regardless of how well I knew someone. I would never try and start communication with them.
Yeah, like
just focus.
It's a good lesson for you.
When I was at Leicester, it was quite dangerous because we had a manager in Mickey Adams who gave me a free rein. To do what I wanted.
Just let you loose, did he?
And he would say things like, if there was sometimes there's a lull in the game and the crowd's a bit flat. Remember the first time we were on it, he called me over to the touchline and went, Dickie, he went, go and start a fight. And I was like, but what? He said, Gaffer, if I get sent off, you're going to know. He said, go and start a fight. So next minute, I would go and smash somebody, everybody would be in.
Just get the crowd up.
And we would be going again. And he used to do that 3-4 times a season with me.
Brilliant.
Say, on you go and start a fight.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. A couple of questions on WhatsApp. Actually, I want to hear, Neil, about a young City player. Have you seen much of Shea Charles at senior international level, and what have you made of his progress so far?
He's fantastic. Honestly, I've seen him. Saw him play in the summer, a couple of internationals. He played in Belfast. I think the other one might have been in Lithuania or somewhere like that. And speaking to the coaches, I was actually at a youth tournament there in France last month with the Northern Ireland under-19s, and they were raving about him. You know, and I know Tommy Johnson, who's no teammate of mine, and Tommy was assistant manager with Northern Ireland there, and couldn't speak highly enough about him. So he's going to have an unbelievable future in the game. So it's great that Northern Ireland have him, you know, so we're very excited about him.
Fantastic. Ben, thank you for that question. Actually, speaking of our young players, those who was watching the show on Tuesday may have been following it, our under-18s, we're in Derby Day action today, and it is very, very nice to talk about an under-18s derby because Manchester City have come out winners 3-1, another inspired performance by none other than Nico O'Reilly. And with this win now, we're going to watch some of the goals. I mean, this first one from Nico O'Reilly is a bullet.
He's on fire at the minute.
He is.
Wow.
Well, we're going to see the goal from last week, but if you thought the scorpion kick...
Seen this one?
Wait till you see this one now in a second. But this win as well means that they could go on to win the under-18s crown at Sunderland next week if they win. That'll be 3 years in a row. We'll speak about that in a second, but let's admire this goal from this young man. Fresh off a scorpion kick last week, the man is in imperious form. He goes and does this in a derby. Have a look at this. Has a look. Joleon, thoughts?
Stupid. Just calmly though. That's not his first attempt to ever have done that. He's done that multiple times in training.
That's just natural talent, though.
Yeah.
You can't coach that. No. That's just a bit of the genius in him. Like,
always looks better left-footed as well.
And this was
that's not bad.
This is the third goal as well. 3-1 winners.
Is that the lad we signed from Watford?
I think it is. Yeah.
Decent.
Great. I mean, Paul, if the under-18s go on to get the win against Sunderland next week, that will all but secure the crown of the under-18s league, and that'll be 3 years in a row. Never been done by the EDS or under-18s at any point. The City's youth academy just seems to be dominating English football.
They are. It's ridiculous, and You know, I think especially the last 4 or 5 years, they've really stepped it up. You know, it used to wind me up when the CFA first got built, and after 2 years people are saying, why is there no academy players coming through? Because it was going to take a longer process for that to happen, and now you're seeing, look, Cole Palmer, Rico Lewis, Nico there, you know, his goal last week in the last minute was a huge goal for them.
Well, here we go, Paul, we can look at it.
Yeah.
Check this. This was the 95th minute, 1-1 as the score. You can see there up at the top. Beautiful little cutback, and then I'm just going to shut up because and let the football do the talking.
Oh my days.
Neil.
Listen, I signed a great young player a couple of years ago from the City Academy, Jeremy Frimpong.
Yes.
And he came up to Celtic, and he was a revelation, mate.
Yeah.
He's now at Bayer Leverkusen. I mean, he only came for 300 grand, and then about 18 months later was sold him to Leverkusen for 12 million, and now everybody's looking at him. 57. So what you're getting here at City is whether some of them can come through, which is very, very special to do it. But what City are giving these kids is an unbelievable platform.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like loads of clubs and managers around the country will be looking at these guys going, come have them on loan, can we take them out for a year? But the education these boys are getting at the minute is second to none.
Yeah, and I think that's what City pride themselves on. Obviously, the route is to the first team football, but one thing they say from the outset is they say we want any young player to just play at the top of the game, wherever that
100%.
You know, look at how well James McAtee and Tommy
scored
Doyle
again today.
He's terrific.
I think he's 4 goals in 5 games now at Sheffield. Tommy Doyle with another assist as well.
McAtee's been
top
really good player.
Top player.
The Salford Silver, I like to call it. I mean, I don't think they can, but I would love to have seen them play in the FA Cup.
No, you wouldn't have. No, Cal. No, there's a treble on the line.
Cal, shut up, Cal.
Sorry.
If they got the winner next week,
then then I'll be eating my words, but maybe it's for the best.
Giddy.
Okay, right. The EDS are in action tomorrow as well. You can get that on Recast. That will be live, and you can catch that on City Plus as well. Obviously, Manchester City app is the place for that. That is from 12 o'clock. Right. Not long till kickoff, so let's just take a quick look now at our midfield and Paul. Kevin De Bruyne, 100 assists in that Southampton game. He just seems now to... He's always in great form, but we kind of know when he's hitting his peak, and at the moment, he's pretty unplayable.
Yeah, look, he's world class, and we find out it's hard to find words to keep saying how good he is. And I'm looking forward to seeing him today because I love the fact that the hump when he got taken off the other night there. You know, he's in the Champions League quarter-final. He wanted to be that main man. The fact that when he has come off, Pep's come out and said it wasn't an injury, it was to change it. That will strive him on today. He'll want to go out there and be the best player on the pitch today, again. But when you've got Rodri behind him and obviously Bernardo going back in there, it's a top 3 midfield. I mean, if you're Leicester and you're looking at the 3, who do you try and stop? You know, if you try and stop Kevin or Bernardo, Rodri's the one that's.
They're all different. They'll bring something different to me. Like obviously Kevin, passing wise, but for me, Bernardo Silva, like you can't get near him. He's just
wherever he plays.
I just think De Bruyne has been one of the best midfield players in the world for a long time, Kim.
Agreed.
I just love watching him. There was a game early on the season and over Christmas at Leeds, when Leeds set up really difficult to break down, and he was just a joy to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, like things he was doing, looking around, playing balls blind, but the quality of his passing, the range of his passing. And that one where he gets it on the right-hand side of the box and he takes a touch and he flips it in. It's just unbelievable quality. He's a genius. The guy is a genius. He's a genius.
But you mentioned there Bernardo Silva. I love it because his nickname since he's come here has been Bubblegum. And gosh, was it in flow in Bayern Munich.
Oh my God.
You want to go have a little look at something, check out his 4 megs that he does on the Manchester City Instagram. But we saw it, I remember seeing it live when he was at Monaco, but what he brings to this team, and Pep says as well, one of the best players he's ever trained or coached.
100%. I just think his ability to just suck you in from a defender and then take it away from you, like, I don't think Alphonso Davies would have faced anyone like that. Like, he's used to someone being dominant and trying to run him and physically, but no way. He was just like sucking him in, going past him 2 yards, then turning back and then going again. Like, that was a unique performance, and it made sense why he was in the team, because over recent seasons, I think we've seen him play well defensively, but I think the other night it was like, in possession, you are still the man.
Yeah, absolutely. Gents, I've loved the show. It's absolutely flown by, but don't worry, we're going to be back at half-time and full-time. Before we hand over to our commentary team today, prediction time. Paul, I'm going to come to you first, sir.
Like, I want Leicester to stay up. I'd do it, but maybe after today. So I'll go 3-0.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. I'm going 4-0 then.
4-0, lovely. Joleon?
Let's go 5 then, eh?
Hey, there we go. The 3, 4, 5, 6. Gents, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone as well for getting in touch. I'll try and get through some of those WhatsApp questions at half time as well. But right now, make sure you've got the Manchester City app. That's where you'll get exclusive commentary, and then come back at half time. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Paul, to Neil, and to Joleon. See you at half time. Last thing for me to say, come on, City.
Welcome to the Etihad Stadium. It is fair to say that there is still a buzz around after the incredible performance against Bayern Munich on Tuesday night. That game had everything. It was a magnificent match.